So now that we've created arrays, let's talk about getting data out. So we put our data in, we put it in order, or at least there is an order. Sometimes we don't really care about the order, but it's there no matter what. So when we put that data in, each element is assigned an index, just like with strings. So with strings, each character in the string has an index. In an array, each individual element has its own index. So this thing right here is the first element. It has an index of 0, true index 0. Then we have a number, 68. Well, that's the second slot, and it has an index of 1, and then 2, and then 3. So just like with strings, we start counting at 0. So here's an array, a hypothetical array of the 7 dwarves, which I actually Googled. I thought it was 7 dwarves, but the official spelling is 7 dwarfs, not V-E-S. I don't know. Anyway, Doc, Dopey, Bashful, Grumpy, Sneezy, Sleepy, Happy. The first one in this array is Doc, and then we have Dopey, then we have Bashful. Now, these indices are important because we actually use them to refer to specific elements. Just like I can ask for the first character in a string, using this syntax here, if we take a look at any string, how about Monday, I want the first character, I use square brackets 0. Well, I actually do the exact same thing for an array. We just use an array here instead of a string. So we have our days array. It has 3 elements. And if I want that first value out of there, the very first thing, whatever it is, it's days of 0. And remember, days has a length. Every array has a length. And the length is always 1 greater than the maximum index. So the maximum index here is 2, right? 0, 1, 2. So if I want Wednesday, or whatever that element is, days of 2. So it's just a way, just like with strings, of using a positional number to access an element. Rather than a character in a string, it's the entire element. And that could be a string itself, that could be another array, it could be a Boolean, it could be false, it could be not a number. Whatever it is, we're using that number to access it. And so this is where the order comes in. Every element has this associated number, this index. So we can use them to access a value out, so to read something out like days of 2 equals Wednesday. I should also show what happens if we try and access something like days of 3. There is no index of 3. We get undefined, which is the same value I would actually get if I did days of 30 or days 3, whatever that is, 300,000. There is no index 30,000. Why can't I do numbers? There is no index 300,000 in this array. There's not even an index of 3. We get undefined. So there's not an error, it's not a problem, but we just don't have anything there. There's nothing to see. There's nothing defined. Now, if we do go back to this days, let's go with Tuesday, which is the index of 1, the second element. This gives me the string Tuesday. Now, I actually can chain on. This is kind of bizarre to do this, but if I wanted that first letter, I could do this right here. So this is more of just an exercise to show you that this is possible. It goes from left to right. So what does days evaluate to? Well, it's the array. It's a thing in memory, this collection. And then we're asking for index of 1 from that array, which gives us Tuesday. So then I'm basically asking for Tuesday, square brackets 0, which gives me capital T. Now we can use that same syntax using the square brackets to update an array, to actually change something at a particular index. For example, here I've got a colors array and I've messed up the first color. I wrote rad. What a disaster. It's supposed to be red. What an idiot. Well, if I want to change that, I know that it's index of 0. It's the first element, and I can set it equal to red. Now this is important to understand. I actually can't do this with strings. So if I have a string, let's just go with first name equal, and then I'll set it equal to my name Colt, and then I realize, I want to capitalize the first letter. First name of 0 is C. I cannot reassign that. It doesn't give me an error, but if I look at first name, I'm actually not changing it in any way. Now with an array, we have a totally different outcome. So let's make my array of colors. I'll just do a couple. We have red, orange, and yellow. And let's hit enter here. I realize I want to change that first one. So colors of 0 is rad. No, now it's going to be red. Now if we look at colors, I did actually impact that array element. So unlike with a string, I can't change particular characters. In an array, I can change the entire element. So I could make it a number instead if I wanted. So let's fix yellow. How do I fix that? What is the index I need? Colors square bracket 2 equals yellow, just like that. Now we look at colors, red, orange, yellow. So I can also do things like, as I mentioned, I could change, let's say I change orange to be, I don't know, the number 70. I don't know why. Colors of 1 equals 70. That was stupid, but it works. So I can change type, I can change the value. I also can try something. Let's see what happens here. Make a prediction. What happens if I do colors of, how about 10 equals indigo, or some other string, or just anything? What do you think my array will look like? First of all, can I do this? Can I add all the way at index of 10? Okay, let's look at colors. I didn't get an error, so no issues. Wow. Red, 70, yellow, 7 empty slots, and then indigo. So if I open this up, what we actually end up with is an array with a length of 11. It has 11 slots in it. They're not all full, but what happens when we make a slot that doesn't have a value in it? Well, let's look at colors of, how about 5? It's undefined. 6, undefined. 8, 9, 10, whoops. We get indigo. So our array elongated, took up a whole bunch of extra space so that it could fit something in at index of 10. Is that what we did? Yes, index of 10. So everything else is filled with undefineds. So it's kind of a weird thing to do. Not that you would, but you can do it. Now, if I did have an array and I wanted to add something to the end, let's do like, I don't know, let the Beatles equal an array with Paul, John, and George, like that. And then I want to add Ringo to the end. Well, one option is just this, Beatles of, and then I figure out, all right, what is the current highest index, 0, 1, 2, and then I add 1 to that, so 3. Alternatively, I could just use the length, right? What is the length? 1, 2, 3. So if I use that, it gives me 1 more than the highest index. So Beatles of 3 equals poor Ringo. And there we go. Let's take a look at the Beatles array. Now Ringo is at the end. Now this is kind of annoying, having to figure out that index and put that number in there to add to the end of the array. So we'll see a nicer way of doing this shortly. So to wrap up what we've seen so far, arrays are indexed. Every element has a corresponding number starting at 0 all the way up until the end of the array, with the highest index is always 1 less than the actual length. And we can use that index to access particular elements or to assign new values at those slots. So like we did here, we fixed red and made it red.